Okay, so this video is going to teach you guys how to get started with your Dakota Coin lesson. So one of the things that you're going to want to do is you're going to open up and your teacher will give you a link to Tinkercad. And when you get to Tinkercad, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and go right to sign in. And you're going to sign in using your Google account. When you sign in with your school Google account, it will ask you to put your password, but it's a single sign-on, so you should be able to get in no problem. Now, depending on what your teacher has given you, you will hopefully have already gone through and done some starter lessons to learn how to really get in and use Tinkercad. But if not, we'll get you going. This is your dashboard, kind of shows you where your designs are, what are the designs that you've got. If you are going to do the starter lessons, if you go up here and go to learn, and maybe your teacher didn't assign it to you, if you go under starters and you click learn, go to starters, and you go to see all starters, there are 7 lessons that are really, really good that each take about maybe 3-4 minutes for each one that go through the basics of how to use Tinkercad. How do you place objects, view objects, move them, rotate them? I'm going to assume that you've already done those or take a look at those, but that's going to be where you go. You get back to your Tinkercad dashboard by just clicking the rainbow Tinkercad logo at the top. And what we're going to do is you're going to create yourself a new design. And so what you're going to do is go in here to create a new design. And this is going to open up your Tinkercad workplane. Now, what you're going to need to do is the first thing you want to do is rename your file so that it is going to be, so your teacher knows what your file is going to be called. And so what you're going to want to do is go up the top because it gives you a random name. And I like to name everything with my name. So I'll give my first name. And then this project we're going to do is our Dakota Coin. So I'm going to call it Dakota Coin. So you know exactly what it is. So you're going to rename it and call it your name Dakota Coin. And so this is going to get you in here. When you go to start creating your Dakota Coin, you've got lots of options. Now you're using your trackpad. If you move or click and hold, you can drag a box around. If you're trying to move around the dashboard, we can use zoom in and out by using our trackpad to either pinch in or pinch out. And then we can rotate by coming up to our cube here and clicking and holding to change the view of your work plane. Real important that when you look at your work plane, when you see the word work plane, you're looking at the front of your work plane. It can be really easy to get disoriented when you're doing 3D models and get turned around, be upside down, all kinds of things. So what you want to do is kind of look at up here at the top, what are you looking at? So I'm looking at the back of my model. It looks just like the front at this point, except work plane is facing away from me. And so I can rotate around and I can keep coming around. And what you're going to want to do is find a view that works best for you to get your model created. I like what's called kind of a 3/4 view top down. So so I can see both the top and the front. So you get to see more sides of your model. You could just as easily look at just the front of your model, but that's a little harder to get a look at and see what's going on. So I like to get into a top view. Some people even like to get it to where you're looking at a view where you're looking at the front, the side, and the top, and you kind of get more sides. It's really is a personal preference where you want to go with it. I'm going to get to just a top front view, so I'm going to get kind of a 3/4 view of it. When you get in here, what you're going to do is you're going to have to get your coin that you're going to decorate. So we're going to drag our coin across. And what we're going to do is when we drop our cylinder in here, you're going to drop a cylinder in. And Tinkercad is all about shapes. And so when you drop the cylinder in, you're going to change the shape of it. And so I can do one of two things. I can click at the top of it and I can raise and lower it by clicking and holding and dragging on my trackpad. Or I can just click in the box and say what I want it to be. Now our coin, we're making this to be a coin. So we can't make anything less than 1 millimeter because you're going to print this on the 3D printer. So 1 millimeter is the minimum thickness that you can have. And really the maximum thickness for your coin is going to be 4 millimeters. So a good base is going to be about 3 millimeters. You get anything thicker than that, it's no longer a coin. So we're going to make it 3 millimeters. So I'm going to just put a 3 in there and that's going to be my coin. And then we have to make our coin. We want to click on one of the corners, and same thing, I can drag out to make my coin a different size. I can get it whatever size I want. What we want to do is we want to get our starting coin to be 50 millimeters by 50 millimeters. Okay, again, you can drag it out and you can get it. So that's going to give you a good starting base of your coin. And I can click on it and I can move it so it's in the center of my work plane. So I've got everything set up. What's important when you make your shape is we want to look at, if you look at the side, we don't want to have our coin sitting up in the air. And so one of the things that you can do is this black looks like a triangle Christmas tree. I can change the elevation of something. I don't want to print my coin floating up in the air. If I'm looking top down, it looks perfect. But if I look here, it's floating up in the air. And when we go to try to 3D print this, it won't print because the filament has nothing to land on. It'll print up here in space and it'll just get all stringy like toothpaste. So you want to make sure that when you're making it, that your coin is right on the surface of your work plane, right? And so your work plane right here is at that level elevation of 0. Now, when I look at my coin and I zoom in, so if I zoom in, pinching my fingers to zoom in, I can see edges on my coin, on my circle. And what you can do with that is when you you can change the sides of your coin. So if I want it to be really circly, I make it 64. Now with our coin, I think it's a good idea to have some of those edges because remember, you guys are trying to create a coin. So you can kind of go in there somewhere with what you think looks good. I like kind of in the middle, that 30, right? And then I can click and rotate and change my view and see, look here, there. So I got some of those edges. So it gives me kind of those coin edges, if you will, of what I'm putting on for my coin. And the next step that you guys are going to do once you get your coin and you're playing around with it, don't worry about the colors because your coin is going to print whatever color the filament is. So we're going to print it in this gray like a coin color. So don't worry about the colors of your project because that really doesn't do anything. You can also change if you'd like to have a smoother. You can bevel your coin so it gives it more of a rounded edge, or keep it flat. Really, that's kind of what your teacher's going to give you with it. Once you get your coin going, you're going to put different things onto your coin that are going to be in keeping with what the instructions are for your teacher. And so one of the things that's a really neat tool that you can do is we add a work plane. And what we can do is we can add a work plane to the top of our coin or the side of our coin. So when we add another work plane, what this does is it says, I'm going to create something that's going to go right on top of whatever the surface is. So if I look, see, I've got this new orange. That's going to be my new coin location, right? And so what I can do here is there's lots of things that you can do. And you can combine other shapes or other things. One of the things that you could do that might be a really neat thing is I'm going to drag a scribble in and I'm going to drop a scribble. What you can do with the scribble is create really any shape that you want. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a bow and arrow, right? So this is what I'm going to do for my coin. So I'm going to kind of create this and make sure that everything is connected. And then I'm going to put an arrow going through here. And I'm going to just draw out what I want. And I'm going to make this a solid piece because I'm going to cut this all out. So I'm going to make this so that this is actually going to be a hole. So there's my bow and arrow. Now it shows you kind of what it's going to look like. And then what I can do here is when I hit done, it's going to put it on my model. Okay, now a couple of ways that you can do this. One, we can shrink this down so we make it so it's nice and small, right? And so one way that I can do this is I can have it sticking up out of my model. Okay, so maybe I want to have my bow and arrow raised up so I can see it and feel it. So what I can do here is play with the size of it and I can shrink everything down and make it the size that I want. And then if I use this black arrow here, I can lower it. And what I want to do is I want to kind of sink it into my coin. And I've got it sunk into my coin there a little bit. And so what I do now is I'm going to drag a box. So click and hold and drag a box around both of my objects. And when you group them together, you're going to notice now I've got this bow and arrow that's built into my coin. Okay. Now a second way, another option that I can do, I'm going to make another bow and arrow, and I'm going to show you a different way to do the bow and arrow. So I'm going to I'm going to go back and I'm going to get rid of my work plane, right? And so if I look at my coin, I've got this bow and arrow and it's going to be raised up so I can actually see the bow and arrow kind of sticking out of my coin. Now I'm going to make another one. So I'm going to go back from scratch again, drag my work plane to the top because this is where I want to put it. I'm going to drag a scribble in, and this time I'm going to make a feather for this one. Okay, so I've got a feather here, and I'm just going to kind of put together what I think a feather would look like, right? And then I'm going to make this kind of a feather here. I'm going to put this in, so this is going to stick out, or maybe it's going to be something else. And I'm going to put some lines coming off of it. So this is kind of a feather here, what I've got, right? And so it's a little bit of a scribble here. So then I'm going to hit done, and I've got this new shape. Okay, so then same thing. I'm going to shrink it way down, right? So I've got it so it fits the right shape or whatever it is. And then what I'm going to do with this one is I want to cut this one out. So I'm going to make this into a hole shape. So right now it's a solid. I'm going to change it into a hole shape. And then there's a couple of things that I can do. So I'm going to show you this one's going to go all the way through the coin. So if I make it, if you're going to cut a hole out, make it long enough so it goes all the way through the coin. So at least 3 millimeters. So I'm going to go 7 just to be sure. Use that black triangle again, and you're going to lower it down, and you can see how it starts to turn gray, and it's going to cut out of my coin. So then if I rotate around, so I'm going to take my work plane, and if I drag it back here, I get rid of it. Change my view to the bottom, and you see how I've got it going all the way through? Same thing. I'm going to click, drag to select all of my shapes. When I group them together, this one is going to cut a hole out. Okay, now one of the things that you got is, you notice in this one, and I did this on purpose, I had a couple of little pieces here. So if you have any little pieces that are inside a hole, those aren't going to print. So we want to make sure that we get rid of those, or they won't be connected to anything, right? So we wouldn't want to have those here. And so what you could do to erase those or to get rid of those, if you have maybe a little space or something, is you can just drag a little box in, right? And I can change it into a hole shape, and then I can make this much smaller so that it'll get rid of whatever those little pieces are that I maybe had that I didn't want to have. So if I click on this, what you're going to do is whatever you put in or group together, whenever you group a hole and a solid together, it gets rid of whatever the solid piece is, right? So again, if I take and I group these two pieces together, it's going to get rid of those whole pieces or those little extra pieces. So then I can bring another, and it doesn't have to be a square. I could bring in whatever shape that I want to bring in. So let's say I'm going to bring in another, like a cylinder shape. Okay. And if I group this together and I make this real small, right? And I bring it over here. So this is going to get rid of those again. Again, I just group my shapes together. It's gone. Now you can make text as well. And we do this by bringing a text box. Again, I'll do my work plane, put my work plane over the top here, and put my text over here. And when you bring the text in, you can open it up, change your text. So maybe I have a message that's going to be part of my assignment. I'm going to put my name on here just to show you guys what it looks like. What I want to do is I'm going to make this a hole because I'm going to cut it out, right? And then what I can do is I'm going to shrink this down. So if you hold the shift key and click and drag, it keeps your measurements all the same and it scales. So that's a super important concept for you guys. So it scales your model down for you. So I've got my name, and you can make your text be anything. And really what you're going to do is find where you want your text to be. I can rotate objects by turning them, grabbing the arrows on the side. So I'm going to put my name here. And then what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that my hole, notice it's a little bit off. So I'm going to move it so that it's going to be So, I'm going to move, you can move either the coin or I'm going to move my name here. So I'm going to click on my name. Let's rotate this around here so I can click on my name. And I'm going to move that over just a little bit. Now, one of the things that I can do, changing my view, is I'm going to sink this in just a little bit right now. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sink this in, but I'm not going to go all the way through. I'm going to show you the last concept that's going to really help you making your coin. When I drag a box and I select to group these again, it's going to cut out my name, but now you've got here, my name is actually going to be engraved. Okay, so embossing is where it sticks out so you can feel it, it's raised. Engraving, I've cut my name into the coin, so it's not a full hole, but it goes in, so I can see my name inside the coin or whatever the text is, and then I can cut a hole that comes around from the outside. What we want to make sure that you do, though, is make sure that you leave at least a millimeter of stuff if you're going to make a hole or something, because anything less than a millimeter will print so small that we can't print it on the 3D printer. So what I mean by that is, say I've got a cylinder hole, and I'm going to make a cylinder hole, and I'm going to make it right here. Let's see, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, and I'm going to put a hole into this, right, that I want to have set up. So I'm going to have this, move this around here, right? And so I'm going to put this hole shape, I'm going to put another hole right through this coin just to kind of show you guys something. So again, it's turning gray, so it's going all the way through. All right, I'm going to group these two together. And when I group these two together, you notice I got a really, really thin section right here, okay? I got a really thin section of material right here. This won't print well because it's less than a millimeter, right? And so I can check that because I can have my ruler. I can drag a ruler here to see how big stuff is or what the measurements are of things. So I've got my ruler right here, and I can see what I've got from my ruler, so I can measure all of the objects and see how far everything is. And that's really, really going to be thin. So that will probably not make a solid wall and will cause me some problems. When you're done with this, your teacher will show you how you're going to export this and turn this into Google Classroom. So what you're going to want to do is, I've got it named. I'm going to hit this export button up here to export it. And you want to export your coin as an STL, which is right here, STL. And when I click to export as an STL, it will download it to your Chromebook. And then you're going to go to your Google Classroom and attach that file to your Chromebook. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your teacher to get with you and get you going on this. Enjoy.